Yo guys, what's poppin'? Bum Gabriel here with the first round of the annual Grand Slam versus Raseri. So, quick note, if you are a German viewer and you would like to see the live German commentary version, then I'd advise you to either click on the other video with the same thumbnail or on the link in the description, which also leads you there. If you want to see the English version, then you are of course free to stay here and watch the replays with me. So yeah, also this is my first time doing these replay narrations, so if I get a play wrong or don't remember that correctly, then bear with me. I hope this will get better in the future, and I'm sure we improve as the series hopefully goes on. Yeah, so first matchup we got Raseri, which I know is a really good player, as I faced him 4 times in the past, from which of 3 times he beat me and 1 time I got the better of him. Also he's a NUPL player, I'm pretty sure of, and also NUPL room owner, so I know he's good at NU, yeah? I know it for a fact. So with that knowledge, I decided to bring a pretty balanced-ish team in the first round, which contains Magic Bounce Zatu with Nightshade and U-Turn as its attacking moves, and also Toxic and Druze for just utility. Then we got Rocky Helmet Weezing with T-Spikes, which should be pretty nice here. Scarf Togedemaru, Rockium Z, offensive Regirock, which is a pretty cool hidden tech, Choice Bandit Pangoro, and a Life Orb Sceptile, which also looks pretty good here. So at first glance at his team and seeing Electrode, I thought to myself, well, fuck, this is gotta be some of this offense bullshit that's pretty good against my team. So at first we know Electrode always on these builds runs double screens plus taunt to prevent the defog. As its last move, it most likely runs either Explosion or Volt Switch to gain momentum, which is okay, pretty nice to know. The Volt Switch we can, if we know it is Volt Switch, we can always go into Togedemaru and absorb that and gain momentum by U-turning. If he predicts that by Volt Switching, never mind, we are slower. Never mind. He can Volt Switch out, so we always get momentum from it by U-turning. But he gets screened for free, which also sucks. Yeah. Then we got Incineroar and the Klinklang. I just remembered the name. Which are both potentially good Z-move user. But Klinklang could also be sub leftovers. The case with sub leftovers, Klinklang here would be that he abuses the screens to get Klinklang to set up and doesn't let me break his subs, so he could then spam Gear Grind, maybe with Magnet Rise, so he always beats Steelix without Roar 1v1, even though he just has his Gear Grind as its attacking move, or maybe Incineroar with Malicious Moonsault, but we will see in the match. We can assume just on team preview. Then we most likely got Mold Breaker Dradigon, which I knew from team preview now. I can't prevent hazards from him. He can from me, because those Dradigons run Taunt, Stealth Rock, Glare, and either Dragon Claw or EQ as their last attacking move, which is pretty good against me, as I can't Oko it. And yeah, if you look at my team, it's really solid. Holy crap! And because I can't switch in my Weezing versus this thing, because I need it at maximum health to take on the Klinklang, we got a pretty huge problem right here. Then we got Miss Magits, which pretty much runs always Nasty Plot, Shadow Ball, and Dazzling Gleam, since Pangoro is down in the tier, and maybe Sub or T-Bolt Energy Ball as its last move. I don't know that yet. And then we got Vikavolt, which I was ultra mega worried about, since I don't know if it is either the defensive Rocky Helmet set, which completely walls my Togedemaru, The other thing would be a agility version, since he can abuse screens and set up with his metronome, or the last version would be a straight up choice specs Vikavolt which bodies my entire team. So yeah, Vikavolt, extremely huge threat. Klinklang, huge threat if I can't keep my Weezing healthy, and through screens it should be pretty difficult to break this team. So there are a variety of lead options from me. I could lead Xatu if I predict his Druddigon and can instantly find out if he is EQ or Dragonclaw, which would be nice. Then I could lead Sceptile if I predict his Electro to get some huge damage off of it, or his Mismagius, of course. But I get screwed if he leads Incineroar and instantly gets his U-turn initiative and then goes into Druddigon or Electro depending on my switch. So that would be pretty, that would suck straight up. And then the last option would be Pangoro, because Pangoro would be nice against the Incineroar option, which in my opinion would be the most likely. Of course, Eevee is a more defensive variant, and the Electro variant. So that works pretty nicely for me. So I'm gonna do that. And I'd say let's jump right into the battle. So he leads Druddigon and I lead Pangoro. I instantly though know, as I see Moldbreaker, that this thing carries Glare 100%, so I switch out into Xatu as I can't prevent hazards anywhere and I don't want Pangoro to be glared. As he parries my Xatu, and now I throw off a Toxic as he Stealth Rocks. So the Toxic is huge here because I think I need chip damage on this Druddigon to kill it. Now I go for a Nightshade to chip it further as he goes Electrode, and now is the moment he sets up screens. So I know I want chip damage on this Electrode, so I go for another Toxic, and now as I predict him to set up as Reflect, I don't know why he set up Light Screen, because I have Togedemaru, a Pangoro, and a Regirock which all attack physically, and I have a Xatu which from which he saw Nightshade. I could see him potentially going for the Psychic Tech there, so his Electro doesn't get KO'd from it with the Toxic damage, as he doesn't know yet which kind of set I am, if I'm more offensive or a defensive set. He can just assume from Druddigon. But yeah, the Light Stream actually sucks because it's just good versus Sceptile. So I predict him to go for the Reflect here as I go for the U-turn, but he Volt switches out actually, and I get my momentum with the U-turn as he goes Mismagius, and this is perfectly fine for me, because now on this Mismagius I can go into my Togedemaru and throw off a potential Zing Zap, as I know he will switch out. I go for U-turn on his Druddigon switch, which was pretty obvious since it's a natural resistance to me, and on the Druddigon I can now go into my Regirock and set up rocks to prevent him. Prevent his Incineroar and his Vikavolt from dealing too much damage from me. But he predicts this nicely with a taunt, but on the other side it's the worst case scenario and he still gets toxic damage out of it, so I'm fine with it. So after I know he taunted me, I knew I could go for the Drain Punch because he doesn't have the damaging ability on his Druddigon, he has Mold Breaker. And I will gain a lot of health and also scout, and can also scout which move he has, if he has either EQ or the Dragonclaw. But he decides to actually switch out into his Klinklang, which is extremely good for me as I go for the Drain Punch and do 51% damage from him. So now I instantly know, okay, he cannot set up. He always has to attack me right in front of him, since he knows I deal more than half damage to him. So I can freely switch out into my Weezing as he now throws off his C move and deals a lot of damage to me. He now knows that I got my Weezing in, so he has two options. Either set up and hope I don't KO him through the Light Screen, which I think Fire Blast has a chance to do. And it's a chance, if it's a gamble if I have Flamethrower or Fire Blast. I have Fire Blast, by the way. But I predict him to attack me right here, so I stay in and go for the T-Spikes, or maybe switch out actually. So yeah, I go in, my Weezing goes down, and I go into my Togedemaru as I know his Klinklang is at 16% and I can revenge kill him pretty freely with my Zing Zap. He's strutting on his Toxic, I want chip damage on it. But the Vikavolt could be a problem, of course. So I go for the Zing Zap here. He throws off his Klinklang as it doesn't do much for the rest of the battle, which I can understand. And now he goes into his Druddigon. So with that switch, I instantly know, okay, this screams EQ to me. Otherwise, this play would be bad because he can't glare me. Taunt is stupid because he probably knows that I'm choiced in some way. So I make a bold switch into my Xatu, predicting the EQ, which I get correct since he has EQ. So now I know, okay, his EQ as his only attacking move. So I go for the Roost here, which he predicts nicely by taunting me. So unfortunately my Xatu now is dead, but I can at least get switch initiative by U-turning. If he stays in, I can get the kill with Pangoro, but he goes into Electrode, which I can U-turn out of, into my Regirock to attempt to set up my Stealth Rocks again. So I predicted him to taunt right here, so I went for the Stone Edge to get this play correct, but he sets up the Reflect. Pretty nice prediction from him, but he still will die through Toxic because he doesn't have any recovery. And now he goes into his Vika Volt. So I know that he will either go for the Bug Buzz or the Energy Ball. He can't lock himself into another move if he is Choice Backs because of Togedemaru. If he has Agility, he will probably set up right now. And if he is a defensive variant, he wouldn't have brought it in anyways, because I can just KO him or deal some hefty damage to him. So he doesn't know I'm Rockium Z, so I go for the Rockium Z right here as he goes for the Bug Buzz, predicting something. And yeah, I pretty much know I can KO him right off the bat with the Continental Crush, which is incredible because Vika Volt was the biggest threat to my team. So yeah, I'm in a pretty good position here, right here. He goes into Mismagius, and I feared the sub here so much. I thought he was going off of a Stone Edge miss right here, so I went instantly into Togedemaru. Also, I can survive any hit. He decides to throw off a Shadow Ball, which is nice by me. And even though the Reflect is up, I go for a Sing Zap right here to potentially get a flinch. He still goes for Shadow Ball, KOs me, which sucks a bit, but isn't too bad, because I can go into Sceptile now and throw off a Leaf Storm and pretty much get a KO right here. He decides to throw in his Incineroar, which takes a pretty hefty chunk because I crit him, which is in retrospective pretty nice for me. Because it enables me to go for another Leaf Storm and KO him with Sceptile. Of course, I need to switch out right here because Xatu, and throw off Xatu because he can't switch in anymore. As I see, he goes for Flame Charge. So Flame Charge means two things. Either he's Z, which he isn't because he already used his Z on his Klinklang, or he is some kind of weakness policy, or maybe some Yapapa set which runs a bit of bulk investment. So on that note, I go into my Pangoro, definitely because he cannot Oko me, and I can potentially throw off a knockoff or a superpower here. So the thing with superpower is he gets a free sub with Mismagius, which probably would lose me the game if I KO him right here. So I, through the crit, I can, without having to risk anything, 2-hit KO him with a knockoff through the Reflect. So I will go for the knockoff as he goes for Flame Charge, cannot KO me, and through knockoff I get through a potential Yapapa Berry. We knock off his weakness policy right here, so I'm pretty sure, okay, he will either go for a Flare Burst right here and kill me with him, or he goes for another Flame Charge to chip me on. So he goes for another Flame Charge. I can definitely always knock him out with the Bandit knockoff, and now is a decision to make. Either he will sack his Dradigon, which would be pretty stupid because the Reflect is now gone, or go Mismagius and set up potentially a sub on my switch out. I stay in because of that, and sack my Pangoro to the Dazzling Gleam, and now I can bring on my Sceptile because I pretty much always can get a kill here, and because I have Substitute, I knew from the moment I had this matchup that I can definitely win the 1v1 versus Dradigon and Mismagius. So I'm gonna go for a Giga Drain right here because I know this Mismagius most likely cannot KO me and cannot set up on my face. So I chip on the Dradigon, and pretty much because I know he's only attacking with his EQ, I can go for a sub freely. Or so I thought. But then I saw HP Ice and thought it would KO him, and I make a huge misplay by going for the HP Ice because I let my Sceptile get paralyzed, but luckily the Dradigon goes down. So now I have a Parrot Sceptile and a Regirock which can take a hit, so I'm pretty much screwed here. But I got lucky and the Shadow Ball does not KO my Sceptile. I break through and kill him with a Leaf Storm, which leaves me victorious because I got a 29% Regirock still in the bag. So this game 1 was that was the one huge misplay that I didn't go for a sub, because his glare was pretty much obvious, as it was his only win condition left. So I should have gone for the sub. I don't know why I went for the HP Ice Air. I was afraid for a Sucker Punch for some reason, but I already saw his 4 moves and I predicted his moveset with 1 slash on the team preview. But it was fine. It still went good for me, as I didn't get parried. So pretty lucky game 1. So yeah, we went. I went ahead of him. Ahead of him. Nice. So in game 2, I brought another kind of balanced-ish semi-stall team. So with this team, I got a more defensive like Cryogonal, a more defensive like Coal Mine Sigilif, a Choice Scarf Pessimian, because Choice Scarf Pessimian is the only Pessimian. Let's be real. The Toxic Spikes Pain Split Wheezing in the back, because Toxic Spikes are straight up broken right now, and looking at his team, Toxic Spikes will do a hefty chunk off of him. I got a Pharaoh Seed with Spikes, Leech Seed and Gyro Ball and Protect, and lastly I got a Seismitoad, which functions as my rocker and also has some team utility with Knockoff. So on team preview here, I pretty much thought, okay, this would be probably some kind of offensive Kabutops, as I don't see a rain setter, so it could either be Swords Dance Z, or it could be Choice Scarf, which is also a kind of thing here in NU, but it's rather rare, so I think the Z is pretty much guaranteed on it. It could also be on this how's it called? This Decidueye, or on this Guzzlord. So there are some options. So I wouldn't want to get out Choice Scarf immediately. Then we get Delphox, which could potentially also carry a Choice Scarf, but most likely it's a more defensive variant with the sub-toxic shenanigans. It pretty much also always runs Protect. Some run Grass Knot over Protect in case they have Flamethrower as their 4th move, but some kind of run Wish Protect or Mystical Fire with Protect as their only attacking move, since it lets them stall out or get the drops and then set up subs again. So then we got a Steelix, which probably is the standard Steelix set with the Stealth Rock Curse thingy going on. This Decidueye, which could very well be Swords Dance Z with Spirit Shackle, or it could also be a more defensive Cobra variant, which I actually predicted right here, because this team is kind of weak to Knockoff, since he doesn't appreciate it. He doesn't appreciate anything knocked off, or he doesn't appreciate anything switching into Pessimian, bar his Guzzlord, which really fears the close combat on the predicted switch-in. So Cobbleberry default is here the most likely thing. Probably Choice Scarf Pessimian, could also be Choice Bandit, but we will know. If it is Choice Scarf, it is probably Z Kabutops, since Double Scarf isn't that good in NU right now. And then we of course got the Guzzlord, which could be Specs or yeah, like I said, a Darkinium or Dragonium Z variant. So right off the bat I noticed T-Spikes are broken in this matchup, so I really want to lead off with the Wheezing and get some kind of advantage by setting them up. He U-turns turn 1, so he knows that my item is indeed the Rocky Helmet, and I set up my T-Spikes. I can always ooh, that's too fast. I can always switch into Cryogonal on his Guzzlord, because I can come in on a Fire Blast or Draco, and on the Draco I can pretty much always recover, and on the Fire Blast I pretty much also go for recover and hope he misses, and he also has to feel the Ice Beam from me, so I go on the Draco into my Cryogonal, and I'm pretty much free to recover here as he goes into Steelix. So on the Steelix I'm pretty much at full, so I can switch out into my Pharaoh Seed right here to gain some momentum by getting up my spikes as he goes for a Stealth Rock right here, and goes back into Guzzlord as I set up my spikes. So right here I have Protect, so I can go for it right now to scout which move this Guzzlord locks himself into, as I know it is indeed Specs. He knows, he goes for Fire Blast, and as I know, he knows, as he knows, I know that he Specs. I will go out into my Seismitoad on the predicted maybe Fire Blast, but he does a pretty good double right here and goes into Decidueye on my Seismitoad. Of course I can stay in right here, so I go out into my Ferroseed as it lets me get up another layer of Spike if he defogs, and if he switches out I can get some chip damage off of him. Of course he's poisoned, so he's on a timer, and I really want to get up another Spike right here to gain some initiative in case he switches. I go now into Cryogonal on a predicted Psychic because I feared that he would go for it in case he is an offensive variant. I predicted that he predicts me to predict him and go into my Pessimian. So that's what I predicted, and in case I go into Pessimian, Psychic is the best play by far. If he is a substitute variant, Cryogonal is a really bad play, but I go into Cryogonal nonetheless, and now I know that he's a sub. I know he will most likely throw off a Toxic, so I go into my Magic Guard Sigilyph right here, as I get the Toxic correct. And I know I Call Mind Sigilyph always can beat the Stealth Fox 1v1. He goes for Mystical Fire, does 37%, and I go for Call Mind, which lets me show him that he cannot beat me 1v1. And I can go freely for a Roost in case he crits me or something like that to prevent that, and still be at full to switch into Delphox later potentially. He goes into Pessimian, predicting me to Roost, and now he will probably go for a knockoff, which I can throw my Pessimian in. The other thing could have been that he goes for close combat, but the Sigilyph is such a threat that I predicted he wouldn't go for close combat right off the bat. And looking at my team, Weezing and Ferroseed are also pretty good switch-ins into that Pessimian, and I don't like their items to be knocked off. So I decided to throw my Pessimian in as it is the weakest link in this battle. And also, if my Choice Scarf gets knocked off and I get this play correctly, I'm free to switch up moves, which is incredible. And I also can get off slow U-turns in the mirror match. So that's exactly what I do. I predict the switch out and go for a U-turn as he goes into Kabutops. And now we can scout which kind of set he is. The weak armor triggers, so I know he's not battle armor, which doesn't tell me much, but I can always go into Ferroseed here. And right here, I go for a Gyro Ball because I'm really afraid that he's an SD variant and he could sweep my entire team. Also with the defense drop I can OHKO him with Gyro Ball. He goes into Decidueye and I KO that thing, which is huge. So now I know my hazards are here to stay, which is incredible. Now he goes into Stealth Fox, into Delphox, and on the switch I predict him to predict me to go into Sigilyph. So I get into Seismitoad on the predicted Magical Fire. I get the play correctly, which is incredible. And now I can pretty much fire off a knockoff or an EQ right here. I decided to go for a knockoff since I would like to get rid of the Steelix's leftovers or the Delphox leftovers. The Kabutops is pretty much guaranteed Z now, as I know the Pessimian is most likely Choice Scarf. So it won't deal that much damage, but I have a free switch on Kabutops anyways with my Ferroseed or even my Seismitoad, which he can touch probably. So I go for a knockoff right here as he throws off a Toxic trying to weaken my Seismitoad, and this is incredibly good for me because the Delphox doesn't have any additional recovery since I didn't see his last move, which is most likely Protect. He goes into Guzzlord as I predict him to switch out and go for my Stealth Rocks right here. And this turn was incredibly good for me because with the Stealth Rocks and the Spikes up, I can pretty much have the Delphox dead at switch-in since it is at 38% health. So with that knowledge, if I can get another Spike, I pretty much win the game. So the rest of the game is pretty much stationing myself to gain another layer of spikes and to win the game. So on the Guzzlord, I already showed him that my best switch-in is my Cryogonal, and since he can't switch into Delphox anymore, I'm pretty much free to go into it. And he already throws off a Draco, and I can recover. We already played that game before. So I'm gonna go for recover right here as he goes into Pessimian, and now I know pretty much he knows that my initial switch in is Persimmon and that I'm willing to throw off my Persimmon. So now I'm predicting to go for either U-turn or close combat, predicting that and go into my Weezing. So he goes for U-turn right here. I get the play correctly and weaken the Persimmon further, and now he goes into Kabutops. So I get two pretty good switch-ins into the Kabutops, and I pretty much can go into my Ferroseed since it is rather useless right now, since it can only beat the Steelix and I can beat it with other ways. So I throw in my my Ferroseed and predict his switch up by going for the Leech Seed on the Steelix switch in to gain some additional recovery, and now I'm pretty much free to set up the additional layer and to kill the Delphox, because actually I predicted the Delphox right here. He actually goes into Guzzlord and throws that off, which is pretty amazing for me, because now I can just go for a Protect and his Guzzlord is pretty much dead, because I already saw he is not the stockpile for the full heal and the damage is choice specs and stuff. So yeah, he dies right here of poison and his Delphox is dead, his Kabutops is pretty much dead too. So he's forced to go into Persimmon and close combat me right here. I have a free switch into Weezing. Even if he goes for a knockoff right here, he can't come in another time because of my hazards that I've been stacking up. So yeah, he goes for the close combat, I get the play right, and he dips. Because it's pretty much his only mon he has left is his Persimmon is dead, his Delphox is dead, so he has his Kabutops, which is getting hardwalled by my Ferroseed and only has one switch left, and his Steelix. So Steelix would need to get 6 kills right here. I can Leech Seed the Steelix with my Ferroseed and gain chip damage on it every turn. I have my Seismitoad with Score, which can potentially burn him. I got my Persimmon, which can close combat him. I have my Ferroseed, which also slightly walls him, and I got my my Cryogonal, which is pretty much useless, and I still can damage him with Ice Beam in the rest of the match. So yeah, he sees that, he decided to dip, and now we won and we proceed to round 2 with a 2-0 victory over Raseri. I'm pretty happy about with that result actually, because now I can get my record to 3-2 up to him, and we closed the gap between the win and loss ratio versus him, which is pretty great for me. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you get some kind of feedback, leave it down in the comments below. As I said, this is my first time doing stuff like this. And yeah, thank you for watching. We will see us in future rounds, and goodbye. See ya.